going? Here's my review for episode 2 of The Stand. Let me check my notes here. All right. So, I was right about the last episode being about about 3 characters for the most part, and then this next episode being about another couple of different characters, and just kind of touching on the previous characters. This episode was mainly about Larry Underwood. He's a musician, and he's kind of a up-and-coming musician, is just on the edge of breaking out, and then the plague happens. But he's a little bit known, not like super well known. And it was also about Lloyd Henry, who is, as we see in the episode, he is a criminal, and he gets arrested. According to the scene that we saw, he doesn't actually kill somebody, but he's arrested for murder, being involved in murders. And he's a little more Weasley than I remember from the miniseries. And I don't really remember exactly his personality from the book. It's been a while since I read the book. But he's definitely kind of Weasley in this new series, which is fine. No big deal there. But Larry's a really good character. He's one of my favorite characters from the book and from the miniseries. He's played by he was played by a white guy in the miniseries, but I don't remember anything related to his race that really makes that matter anyway. So there's certain characters where there's actually a racial dynamic specific for the character, and changing the race could change that dynamic, but I don't remember anything like that for Larry, so that shouldn't matter much at all. And let's see here. Yeah, Larry, he was one of my favorite characters from the book and from the miniseries. I guess I identified with Larry, or maybe it was because I felt Larry was a similar character as Eddie from the Dark Tower. I always kind of thought they were sort of in Dark Tower speak, or in Stephen King universe speak, they were kind of twinners, I guess. Maybe in a way. But his character is very fleshed out in this episode, and more so than the previous episode with Larry, or with Harold and Fran and Stu. Their characters are, there's character building in those episodes, but it seems this episode was much bigger on character building for Larry than for anybody else. It shows that he's also quite flawed in this episode, which makes for the redemption of his character much more strong, and I think that's going to be very interesting. Still not quite a fan of the non-linearity of the episodes. It makes for the suspense and the drama of the plague to be lighter. And I think that's a really significant part of the story, and it should be more of a thrilling part of the story. But we just see the stories of them already surviving it. We don't really have the suspense of who's going to survive and how they survive the plague. Even though it's touched on, but it's not. It feels like it's downplayed a little bit, which. Maybe they're doing that for a reason. Maybe they're downplaying it because there's so much content to get to after the plague that, and they have only 8 episodes to do it. We're 2 episodes in, and I guess we're a quarter of the way through. You need to stop the plague stuff at some point, and there's a lot more to do, a lot more characters to introduce. And they gotta get through the plague stuff faster, I guess. So maybe they're doing it this way for that reason, and if so, that's fine. As long as if it becomes more linear later after the plague flashbacks happen, then I'll probably be okay with the previous plague flashbacks, because it kind of picks up I think once everybody gets to Boulder in their own episodes, that the linearity will become linear again. So that's a guess. One part I really liked was they introduced, for just a minute or two, Nick Andros. I thought it would be a bigger part of this episode, but I'm thinking probably next episode is when we'll see a lot of Nick Andros, and he's a major player in this story. An interesting thing about him is he's deaf and dumb, is that he's a deaf mute. And when he came on the screen and it showed Nick, I don't know what it was, but I really, really liked it. I guess maybe I liked the actor because he didn't say anything, obviously, if he's a mute, but he really just kind of did like one sort of a motion, and I'm like, wow, this guy's, I don't know, I just liked it right away. I just, maybe it was just very effective for me. I just like the character from the book and the series too. So, Nick Andros, man. It should be a very interesting episode next week if he's the one that's going to be primarily the focus. Also, back to Larry. He is in this episode for the most part with two different women. He finds Rita coming out of New York, and Rita and he get out of New York together. And Rita wasn't in the miniseries at all. They just kind of made Nadine, who's the other blonde from this episode, played by Amber Heard. Nadine is the one in the miniseries. Nadine is the one he gets out of New York with, but this one is more accurate to the book, with Rita. And I guess to limit spoilers a little bit, at some point he's no longer with Rita. So Randall Flagg is awesome in this episode. You get to see a lot more stuff with him, actually, like significant lines of dialogue, and you can kind of tell how he's kind of like a sort of a playful kind of mystery villain sort of player. It was a really good episode. I might have liked this episode better than the first one. And I know I gave the last episode a B, so I'm going to give this one a B+. Maybe it was because of the Larry factor, because Larry's one of my favorites, but then Stu's one of my favorites, so I don't know, I think the character of Larry was much better fleshed out in this episode, and therefore I probably liked it better. So anyway, I guess that's about it. Hopefully the next week will be Nick, and I'm thinking probably Nick, Andros, and Trash Can Man will be the focus of next week's episode. That'll be 3 episodes into 8 or 8 sort of 9 episodes, and yeah. And then I'm thinking, because it's Nick, we'll also be introduced to Tom Cullen and Julie Lowry and Ralph Brentner. Although, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, so next week should be interesting, and yeah, we'll see about it. Anyway, thanks for watching. I didn't notice any Dark Tower connections this time around, and if I missed something from the like a Dark Tower connection, please let me know in the comments. I would like to find out if there was and I just missed one. Thanks a lot, and talk to you later.